And we're back again for another episode of The Last Storm. Man, we're pumped up to be here. A little bit later than we normally record, but that's alright. Life goes that way. We just got done playing against the Wizards. It was a crazy game because we led it the whole time, and we were able to just kind of hang on to that lead. There was a lot to talk about, bro. But basically, my favorite part...
Well, first of all, let's not say this, though, before. I live in Bethesda, Maryland, guys. I get blocked out of these games, the Wizard games, so I usually watch them 3 days after they happen, which totally sucks balls, and I fucking hate the NBA for blacking out like this stupid bullshit, because I spend a crazy amount of money to watch any NBA game I want, except for the fucking Wizards games. Come on, that's fucked up. Anyways,
I know. Dude,
fuck you, NBA.
We could do a whole episode on the stupidity of blackouts, and I understand. I get why they think they need to do them,
especially a game like this. Man, we just destroyed this game. I would love to watch this game, bro.
It's like the most loyal fans can't watch the game because they're too close to it. That makes no sense to me. And look, we could go on and on, but that's not what you guys are here to hear.
I want to say this. Last night, I watched a couple highlights, right?
Yeah.
And the highlight that I saw that really stood out to me was Josh Giddy to J-Dub. And then I had to go back to something, right? Because it was something somebody else said, and I don't know where they said it to. Was it on Twitter? Was it on YouTube? Somebody said on YouTube or Twitter, they asked the question, or made the statement, rather. It seems like there is a lot of Josh Giddy to J-Dub assists. And then I started thinking about it. And it's absolutely right, man. Yeah. It's so much. Those two connect on such a high level, and then I saw it last night in the replays of the game, and even little things like J-Dub dribbling to the middle and passing to Josh really hard, and then Josh cutting to the basket really hard too. Like, these guys, they get each other, and they both are making each other better. And you look at the box scores, and you can see. It's truly spectacular, man.
For sure, and yeah, that's something that we've seen a lot. You know, watching J-Dub dunk highlights, it's usually Josh Giddy who passes him open. But for me, the major highlight that, you know, kind of like what defined the game was like, yeah, we had this lead all game, but they started going on a bit of a run. They cut it to 15, and they had some momentum, which isn't that like tight or anything. But Dort, after being out for a long time with 5 fouls, right, he came in and he had 8 points in a row that really kept the Wizards at bay, and maybe somebody else would have hit those shots. But after not really playing for a significant, portion of the third and fourth quarter because of foul trouble and it being a factor all first quarter, he just came out and played really big in the fourth. So, like other players scored more, other players, contributed in different ways because that's what this team does. And if you look at the starters, everybody scored double figures. Mike Muscala with 10.
That's beautiful.
Jalen Williams and Dort both with 18. Giddy with 20. And Shea with 30. And we got contributions off the bench too, which, that's awesome because you get so much balance with these guys. But, yeah, I think post-game I heard Coach talking. Go ahead.
Yeah, shout out on taking care of the ball this time, man. Like, Shea didn't have a turnover at all. He had 30 points and no turnovers. Dort had the ball in his hands, had 0 turnovers. Josh had 2 turnovers. Jalen had 3, which is not that bad. So our starters had 5. Man, that's phenomenal. Yeah.
I mean, I heard
I'll take
Coach
that any day of the year.
We kept cutting, we kept moving, and people. So I think like some games you have like people kind of jump in the air and they get like in bad spots. And I think this game, it wasn't necessarily like we never did that, but since people were always moving to open spots, like we weren't really caught in these like negative spots. Like there were some times where it was like, oh shit. But generally speaking, we played a really clean game. Like the ball moved freely. There was this understanding with the guys where it felt like Shea was really buying into this too, right? Early in the shot clock, penetrate and get the ball to the other side of the court. Late in the shot clock, take your shot. But there was an understanding of like the difference. And I hadn't seen so much of a balance between like Giddy and Shea, where they understood late shot clock situations, go to your spot and early swing the ball. Like usually there'd be one guy who does it, or, it kind of happens intermittently. But this game, it was the whole game. It was the whole game. It was by everybody. And now you kind of have to wonder, after, we saw with Orlando, like, are we going to keep doing this? Because when we play like this, it's some of the best basketball of the year.
Yeah, and looking at, again, this is my perspective on the box score, so I'm really throwing this back to you, but the player fouls, we had a lot of fouls. Was it an aggression that we had, or was it the like horrible calls being called?
I wouldn't say that there were horrible calls that defined the game.
So we had a chip on our shoulder and playing with an aggression then.
I think here's the deal. Like with Dort and I think
Isaiah Joe had 6.
Yeah, but I think we played with our hands a little bit. I think that was kind of what. So it wasn't.
Was there a lot of physical contact?
There's a lot of deflections, and like I heard Coach saying, like we try to create contact with our chest early, which I thought we did well. But and they didn't call the fouls on that type of stuff usually. Okay, but we would come down and. That they're going to call that in the shooting motion.
But as long as we're physical with the fouls, I like the fouls because it brings a chip to the game. And usually when I see that we had 26 fouls on the night, usually we have this like physicality. And yes, we're bumping with our chest, and we're fouling, but they're good hard fouls. They're not like little pansy fouls. That's what I'm looking for. Yeah, I mean, it looks like we had that last night. Yeah, we had a lot of toughness, but. It's kind of like one of those situations where if you win a game, you did everything right. And if you lose the game, you did everything wrong. And we got the right type of energy throughout the whole game. And for the Wizards, they're on the last game of a road trip. And it's like a 4-game road trip. So you could easily look at it and say, that's going to be a really hard game for them to win. And we were a little bit fresher. And we came off of a game like with Orlando where it's tough. I mean, it was, we were in Orlando for 20 hours and we had a game. But what about this, man? We had 7 assists from our bench. We had 23 assists from our starters. Like you said, we were attacking the hole, going downhill the whole time. Yeah. It was hot. Yeah. And 30 assists, bro. 30 assists.
I would say it was like synchronized, highly synchronized movement, which when we're playing at our best, you see that. And just a complete understanding from, I don't know, like I had never played with a shot clock, right? But I coached at a level where we used a shot clock. It was a longer shot clock, right? I was like an assistant, and like one time I reset the shot clock because I anticipated the ball hitting the rim and it didn't. And when we were on offense, oh my gosh, the other team almost attacked me. I felt like because it was like they were like playing great defense, and then I gave us another possession, and the ref didn't notice, and it was like they thought I cheated, and I was just like I thought the ball was about to hit. But my point is like understanding the shot clock game, the game within the game, right, is something that sometimes we struggle with, and this game we were complete masters of it. As the game went later in it, understanding how to extend the possession and making sure we got good shots and everybody just being like together. It was a masterpiece, but you also have to wonder, what are we capable of when two teams are fresh or when we're tired and the team is fresh? And we've seen consistency is the struggle with this. So we understand that we're not like there yet by any means, but like we are starting to get glimpses of what it will look like when all things are, clicking on all cylinders, and we're getting close.
Man, how did I don't know, man. I feel like we get to this point with turnovers. There's a give and go with us. At being a young team, we only had 9 turnovers last night, and J-Dub had a third of those turnovers. And this is not me picking on J-Dub at the moment by any means at all. This is more when I see the ball in J-Dub's hands a lot, it gets me excited. So as a rookie, when I see 3 turnovers, I feel like that means that J-Dub touched the ball a shit ton. And that makes me excited. I didn't see the game for anybody that's listening, so that's why I'm asking these questions to Mark. But, 18 points J-Dub had. He had 3 turnovers, 3 assists, 2 steals, 8 rebounds. I feel like a phenomenal game shooting-wise. But when you come to the turnovers, I look at it as a positive because that means the ball was flowing through his hands and he had a lot of responsibility on him. during that time. Like, how do you feel like he played with that much responsibility in a game like this?
Yeah, obviously it's what you want. I mean, he's passing the ball well, he's rebounding at a high level, and then he's knocking down shots. And he was hitting them from the perimeter, he was hitting them in the mid-range, he was finishing at the rim. So
2 for 4 on 3-pointers, so he was taking a good threes then.
Right. And
quality threes.
Just a consistent level of aggression and understanding of, once again, of the shot clock. And if he needed to take the shot, because he can get to a shot, 5 seconds left, he was taking it. And
good aggression.
I don't know what else you want from him, or not you, but anybody wants from him at this point. I think in every way he's exceeding expectations. People are starting to recognize that his athleticism is way underrated. He's someone who's surprisingly athletic. A lot of people are still kind of coming away not knowing that. And this game he had 3 dunks. Sure. And I think, he's probably leading the rookies in dunks. Somebody's probably going to correct me and say Walker Kessler is in front of him or something like that. But this guy gets a couple of dunks just about every game. And for being a guard, that's remarkable. And then you look at it and it's he's still kind of figuring out what he's capable of. I think that's an element that's also underrated about his game. So yeah, absolutely J-Dub coming into his own. To me, he looks like a star every time he goes out there and plays. Now, I'm a homer, but this is a rookie that we were hoping could contribute, and now we're looking at him and saying we think that he's moved into an untouchable level already. When you talk about Shea, Giddy, Chet, you got to throw J-Dub in there and say you're not trading him for anything.
Yeah. All right, man. We covered J-Dub. We covered Lou Dort. We covered Shea. Let's go ahead and cover one of our favorites, bro. None other than Josh Giddy. Because last night, listen, he had 20 points, only 2 turnovers, which is phenomenal. 1 steal, 9 assists, 6 rebounds, 2 for 2 on 3-pointers, 9 for 6 on field goals. Josh Giddey's phenomenal play makes my nipples so hard, bro. On so many levels. I can't even describe to you what he is doing right now is exciting you can't help it. I mean, if you're a Josh Giddy fan or even Oklahoma City Thunder fan and you're watching Josh Giddy right now, you're saying, damn, he can straight up play. If you're somebody else on the other end watching Josh Giddy, you're like, how the fuck did he slip to number 6? Because Josh Giddey's proving everybody wrong. His way he is stepping up in a phenomenal level right now is truly phenomenal. I mean, there's no other words of coming up with that except for phenomenal, because I don't know, phenomena.
Yeah, dude, I don't know what else. 2 for 2 from behind the arc, and I heard, I think Nick Gallo saying that he's been shooting 40% from 3, over the last month or something like that. I'm like,
damn, dude,
it's money right now. And the last game, you saw him a couple of times get into his rhythm. He likes to do a little bit of a step into his shot, and he'll give a little pump fake and then step into it. And this one didn't feel like he really felt like he needed it. He just would he would just shoot it. He wasn't really doing jab steps with the ball and then shooting it. And it's
what
a clear
I see,
improvement.
he's been attacking the hole in this game too. He attacked the hole hard. If you get on possessions, I saw.
And I know I'm sounding like a broken record, but yeah, if he had the opportunity, he was driving. But if the ball was caught to him like a hot potato, he didn't act like he wanted the ball to go to somebody else. He didn't look for, in the other games, it looked like maybe driving was his first option. They weren't going to guard him, so he was going to shoot. This one, he just looked like a shooter. And then, I mean, it reminds me, anytime that you are confident in shooting, teams will start guarding you. Even eventually their coach might say, back off. But if you're confident, at first they're going to guard you. And it's kind of backwards with him. But, we've seen it with Lou Dort, we've seen it with other people. We shouldn't be surprised when somebody goes from not shooting well, and then the coaching staff continues to tell them, shoot. And then they work through it. And then all of a sudden we're sitting here being like, hey, he's actually a pretty good shooter. Now, other teams are going to look at him and be like, okay, guys, letting him shoot the 3 without putting a hand in his face is not working. So now he's going to demand a hand in his face. Now, what is he going to do with that? He's going to have to, continue to shoot until they're actually closing him out. But it's going to get a little bit harder. And then he's going to also have opportunities to break down plays and be more of a playmaker. But we saw the same thing with just about everybody. And right now, Shea's kind of going through it. Teams are daring him to shoot. And this was a really good game for Shea. There's a play where Shea was driving really hard, found Giddy. Giddy caught the ball and went straight to Shea in the corner, who had just continued to run and spotted up and knocked down a three. And he also hit another one, at least I'm thinking, of course, people will say, oh, he's really, really tough to guard. Okay, he only hit one. I guess that was the only one. But he's tough to guard when he's knocking down his three. But in the end, he's tough to guard no matter what. So I'd like to see him, I don't mind if he shoots 1 for 4. I don't mind if he shoots 1 for 5 or 1 for 6. I like to see him getting downhill. But if they're going to dare him, he's going to find his rhythm. And he's starting to. His shot looks a lot smoother than it did at the beginning of the season. He's getting into more rhythm. And that's kind of like the next phase for everybody. But that's what people usually say about young teams.
So we shot 45.9%, 46% from the three-point line last night. Is this a number that we can legitimately think that we can hit on a nightly basis in the future of this team? Or is this kind of like the lofty goal? We always strived for 45% from 3-point range, but the reality is we'll end up in someplace in the 40s. But I looked at a couple of our box scores recently, and I've watched a bunch of our games recently, and I feel like this is becoming a more consistent thing where we're getting a 40+% from 3-point range. So is it fathomable to think that this team can shoot 45% from 3-point range throughout a season? I mean, in the future, maybe?
Maybe. But, I'm not sure how many teams have ever done that. But,
I know. That's why I'm questioning, is this even plausible? Because we have so many good shooters, quality shooters.
We do. And you look at,
is this a...
Kenrich Williams, when he's knocking down the three, which he has been recently, and you throw him out there with Isaiah Joe and Trey Mann, and then, put somebody like Dort, Giddy, Shea, any of that combination, and it does feel like we have 5 shooters in a way we didn't before. And, recently, watching Josh Giddey's assist, his highlights and stuff, I started kind of noticing that there was so much to JRE. And he's not out there right now. And he was playing at a really, really high level. But when he's out there, he adds another shooter to the dynamic. And so that is kind of where we're going. When you look at Mike Muscala, he can really knock it down. Everybody on the court can shoot the three at a high level when you look at the starters. Marui came in and, he played some minutes, and, that's not necessarily his strength, but he definitely can knock it down. We know what Isaiah Joe can do. Kenny's been knocking it like crazy. Trey Mann, when he's hot, it's great, dude. And
Trey
Woody
Mann,
Waters went 1 for 1. So we're getting it.
Trey Mann and Isaiah Joe went 4 for 14 last night. It kind of shows you, you still can have guys that considered an off night. And you know what I'm saying? And still shoot 45%. So I don't know, man. Maybe this is plausible. Maybe this is something that in the future, people aren't even thinking it's possible, but in the future, maybe it is. Who knows?
Well, in the right situations too, if the ball is finding the right player and the hot player is shooting, obviously we're going to win a lot of games when we shoot this high of a level.
A lot of games. But it's also because of the way that the Wizards play defense, man. They dared us to beat them at the 3-point line, and that's exactly what we did.
Well, they dared us to do that in a game where we really had no post presence. So that was really what how we had to approach it
thanks,
anyway.
Guys.
Okay, you're gonna pack the paint. I get it though. We do attack the paint more than any team in the NBA. So you do want to stop the initial penetration, but the way that the ball was hitting the other side of the court, which is such an important part of attacking the paint, because the way the help defense gets drawn in, and if you can hit those swing passes, and a lot of times those passes, the ones that are really money, aren't spectacular. Sometimes you have a player like Luka who does a really cool no-look type thing, and Giddy does the one-arm swing pass and stuff, but most of the time, just finding the open guy isn't that spectacular. And that's what, if you can do it, and you can do it over and over and over again, then teams are going to have to figure out how to take away your second and third options, which really good NBA teams are really good at that. So it's not like, oh, well, will it be unstoppable? But I would say like a team like the Celtics and now the Wizards, they come in, they're not really prepared, even though they know from the scouting, they know what we're trying to do. They're not prepared for how, at the level that we do it. And then they come away and they're like, okay, next time we see them, we're going to have options to really get, take away their primary things. But at this stage, like, I would say, like, we're passing this test of like what happens when everything goes right. Now, the second phase of growth is really like, how can we become more consistent? Okay, like we'll deal with that. But last year we were seeing what happens when everything goes wrong.
Yeah, in the Orlando game, we had a late game, got on the plane, got there sometime early in the morning. Like these are young men. Like this is not easy. These aren't like seasoned professionals where you can do that and go back to back and pull your head out of your ass somehow and get another win like that. I was not disappointed by that loss at all.
I want to add on.
I was just
like Shea. We thought maybe they were just holding him out because it was a back to back, but he looked like he was a little bit slow in the Orlando game. Like his legs weren't underneath him.
Sure.
And so I think maybe he was actually a little bit sick, and so because his energy was lower than everybody else, it felt like until around halftime, and then he felt like felt like he was stepping back. But like that whole kind of combination, but yeah, I mean, there's nothing really to learn about the Orlando game, and as far as like even the Celtics game or this Wizards game, like we can learn something from it, but at the same time, like you kind of want to have Coach Dagnall's mentality of going back to 0-0 because we won the game by a big margin, but it doesn't really give us a head start on the next day. Like we got to get back to 0-0, start over at day one, and just be like, we're going to try to get a little bit better and figure out how to do this again more consistently, and understanding like that we're really susceptible to traps. We can't coast. We're not even good enough really to do anything. Like we have to play our best to win. We found that if we play our best for 3 quarters, we can't win. We have to play at a high level for 4 quarters. And in those situations, if we do that, we can win. Sometimes it's going to look like this where we won by a big margin. But if we didn't win by a big margin, we might not have won this game. Because if they had closed it down to 8, they might have had so much momentum, it would have been really hard to hang on to. And that's one of the signs of a young team too. So we're winning a few games by big margins, but having Dort step in the game and go get 8 points, draw an offensive foul, and right when they were going on a run, that felt pretty fortunate because all those shots just as easily could have been misses, and they could have called a foul on him, and we could have been in a situation where we weren't. But that's where we can kind of look and get better. But obviously, bro, like glad to get another win. Looking at the standings, we're not really moving up in the standings, but there's some distance falling between us, the people behind us, and we're not falling out of the distance between the people in front of us. Jazz are falling. Maybe we'll pass them. Who knows?
Wait, and like I want to make this super clear to all those people that are tweaking out and saying we can't go any higher. We can't go any higher, right? Like, this is our sweet spot, man. Like if we can end up in someplace between 9 and 10, we're happy. 9 and 10, 9 and 12, we're happy. Like to us, that's the sweet spot this year. That's where we want to see this team because it's the progression that we would like to see. Like, if Shea goes down, if Dort, Josh, anybody else goes down, like we're going to see this team take a dip, right? But right now, this team's functioning, and that's why to me it's worth keeping an eye on them because I think this team can play 500 basketball. And when you're looking at their schedule over the next couple of months, I think this team. It's going to be really, really fun. I think we have 12 games that we've lost by 5 or fewer points. So, like this is where we need to be at. Like this is the progression that we need to see with this team. And if we can end up with 35, 37, 38 wins, like this is a huge win for this team. And like that still puts us in a really good spot for this year's draft. And it's not like to me, I don't look at this draft pick as somebody that's going to come in right away and take playing time. I think there's going to be a progression of going through the G League with the next draft pick. So that's kind of where I'm feeling with this team is like, what's going to happen? Where we're going to see the move from here. And we got the Mavericks coming up tomorrow night, and it's been some hell of a game. Every single time we play the Mavericks, I feel like once in a while there'll be a slight blowout. But man, Luka's been playing some great basketball, and I'm excited to see what Luka and Shai will do against each other.
Yeah, it's always great ball. And now at this level, people are talking about these two guys. Like, if you're going to build a team around one player, like these guys are right at the top right now. And, some other people have kind of like exited the conversation in recent years as Shai's kind of emerged as a legit contender for that guy. Now we'll see. Luka's been doing stuff that nobody's ever done before, or at least like nobody since Wilt, and probably nobody ever. But so Shai's still on his way up. We'll see where this all leads. But at this point, yeah, Thunder Mavericks is must see basketball.
Well, and to me, like, there's been a lot of people that have, we talked about a year ago. We started saying, I think we had an episode called Jahu.
Yeah, Jahu.
Basically, yeah, just making it known that we believe that Shai is the better player. And now that Shai's playing to what he is capable of playing, it's in my opinion, there is no conversation about this. Like, if you're an NBA expert and you love the game of basketball, you're looking at Shai as being probably the second best young guard in the league, right behind Luka. I mean, is there anybody else that is under 24 years old or 24 years old or younger that is even worth mentioning here? I mean, you've got,
well, listen,
Donovan
there's some
Mitchell's
really
25,
good players,
right? So
there's some really good players, and there's some really good conversations
Tatum.
to be made about each guy. But there's a reason that we like Shai more than those other guys. And it's not just because he's a Thunder player. It's because, like, his trajectory, right, of, being a late lottery pick and, taking on this climb and becoming a superstar in this way. Like, and one thing I heard him saying in the post-game press conference was he was asked about, like, you're dunking more now. Is that something you consciously try to do? And his effort was, he said every year he goes in the off season and he tries to improve his athleticism and his strength. And he sees that as a result of that. And then he went on to say that he hopes that he continues to improve that and get more athletic and get stronger. And that, to me, is why I look at Shai and I say, I think I pick him above all the other guys, is because for his style of game and his work ethic and the fact that he was a late bloomer, I think his best basketball is 3 years away. And that's why, to me, I feel like Shai's the number one guy if you're going to build a team, if you're trying to win a championship. And it's going to take a few years. Now, I get Luka, I get Ja, I get all the arguments, but my guy's Shai every single time.
Yeah, and there is an argument out there that I heard. I don't know where I heard it, but I did hear it, and it was talking about if Sam Presti was Luka's GM, where would that have put Luka at this point? Would people be considering Luka as, and I kept on going back and forth of like Luka and Shai, and to me, like, it's a mindset, man, right? It's a mindset. It's this way that Shai holds himself. It's this professionalism that he has. It's the, if I'm going to argue a call, I'm going to argue a call like an adult, and I'm going to go up like a man, and I'm going to argue the call, and then it's over. I'm not going to keep on going back to it like a little child. And every single time I watch Luka play, yes, you're right. He's a phenomenal player, but I feel like he always teeters on that edge of being out of the game because someone got in his head, and we've seen Kendrick Perkins, for the Thunder, early in the Thunder's lifespan there. And Kendrick Perkins would always get in, whoever's head that he was playing against, whether it was Shaq, whether it was Dwight Howard, it didn't matter. He would get in under their skin and get them really upset and change the landscape of that game. We've seen it with Dennis Rodman. We've seen the other guys. So for me, I'm looking at Shea, and I'm like, okay, like, as far as if you're looking at a guard right now and you're saying you got to pick one or the other, you know, of course people are going to say Luka, but you're right. That's a shadow, you know, like we don't know what Luka's going to be like in 3 years, but we know that if Shea stays healthy, he's going to continue to improve. And I think that's where the key is that in 3 years, when we're looking at the beginning of Shea's peak, to me, that's the fucking money. You know, that's the fucking money, because that's when this team is going to be as well, like in their own little way, peaking. And I don't know if there's a team in the NBA that's going to be ready for that. And I'm looking at the structures of other teams, and I'm seeing like, okay, maybe this team, but the reality is that there's no other team and no other offense, no other defense that even lives up to what the Thunder can do. So watching Shea and putting in Shea in, you know, the position over there in Dallas and putting Luka here, it's not going to change the outcome. Luka's not going to make this team any better at this moment because his mentality, it doesn't fit with this organization. It doesn't fit with this team. And I think that's where, when I hear these conversations, it's like, well, it's just not the same mentality.
What happens when a group is led by the most talented person is also the hardest working person? Right? Like,
what happens?
Yeah, what happens when that like
ask Michael Jordan's people that play with Michael Jordan or Kobe Bryant or you know, any of these guys that have obviously put hundreds and thousands of more hours than anybody else in the league during their time. You know, like these guys, like that's the difference. They lead teams to championships, right? You know, that's what Shea's going to be able to do because the way that he portrays himself, the way that he puts himself out there, and he gets everybody else to do the same thing, you know? And that's why it's important to see people like Dort and Kenny Hustle that are teaching these young guys how to have that Thunder mentality. And that's what it is. Like, we can call it anything else you want to. There's nowhere else in the league that's doing it. There's no other professional sports team that's doing what the Thunder are doing. So we can label it as that Thunder mentality because it's so unique and so special.
Boom. That's it. We're gonna leave it right there. Bro, shout out to your barber for not cutting off too much of your beard, because he did good.
He told me no.
Yeah, I'm glad he did, bro. I would have been sad if that was gone. But
yeah, my hair's gone though. Do you see that? No, I'm just kidding. It's not. I still got my hair, guys.
I let my hair down because you got yours in a ponytail.
Yeah, I had to put it back because the bearded dude.
We're probably already too much of Twinkies to actually pull that off anyway.
Yeah, dude. That's, you know, again, I'm glad that I got glasses and the beard. You know, people tell us that we look a lot alike. I've never seen it, but that's because you're my brother. So,
thanks for joining us, everybody. We will be back. We will be back soon because we love you. We'll see you soon.